Lagos was just waking up as Emeka Okafor stood by the massive window of his father's mansion in Banana Island. He was 35, tall, quiet, and effortlessly striking. His name was Emeka Okafor, but the world mostly called him the billionaire's son. People said it like a badge, a brand, a shortcut to fortune. As the only child of Chief Chijioke Okafor, founder of Prime Trust Holdings, one of Nigeria's largest agricultural conglomerates, Amaka had inherited a life of luxury before he could even crawl. A marble mansion in Banana Island, a garage lined with foreign cars, VIP treatment in every room he entered. But with every favor came a false smile. With every handshake came hidden expectations. His life was a theater full of applause but empty behind the curtains. Friends? They were there when the champagne popped. Lovers? They vanished as soon as his wallet closed. Every woman he met seemed more in love with his lifestyle than his heart. And the more he gave, the more people took. Now he sat in silence, barefoot on the marble floor of his father's lounge, watching the Lagos skyline blink through floor-to-ceiling glass. The house was quiet, but his mind was louder than ever. What if they knew me without my name? Would they still smile? Would anyone stay? As if summoned by thought, Chief Okafor entered, regal in his white senator outfit. "My son," he said calmly, "it's time you took over Prime Trust." Amaka turned slowly. "I'll join the company," he said, "but not as your son." His father frowned. "What do you mean?" Amaka's voice was steady. "I want to go in as a cleaner. No titles, no privileges. I want to see what our company really looks like from the bottom." Chief Okafor went silent. "There are things going on I don't understand," he admitted. "But if you're going to do this, only you, me, and Bela will know." Amaka nodded. And so the billionaire's son became just another cleaner named Kenny. By 6 a.m. the next day, the Prime Trust headquarters in Victoria Island was already buzzing. But behind the scenes, something unexpected was happening. A slim man with dusty shoes and faded trousers entered through the back gate, pushing a mop and a cleaning bucket. His badge read Kene Okoro, his expression unreadable. None of the guards recognized him. No one offered a smile. He was directed to the janitor supervisor's office in the basement. That was where he met Madame Ifeoma, a short, no-nonsense woman with eyes sharper than a razor. She scanned him from head to toe. "You don't look like you've touched a mop before," she scoffed. "Hope you didn't come here to hide from hunger." Without waiting for a response, she tossed him a stained uniform. "Change quickly. You'll be cleaning staff toilets, offices, and break rooms. If I see you idle, pack your load." Kane nodded quietly and changed in the small locker room. As he walked out into the main hallway with his mop, he heard laughter. "Look, this one," said Mr. Conlo, a middle manager. "Even the floor is cleaner than him." Kane bent over and began mopping without complaint. Throughout the day, he endured sneers, commands, and silence. No one saw a person, only a cleaner. But he wasn't there to be seen. He was there to see. He watched the arrogant way Kunli flirted with young interns, the way Ifeoma yelled at older cleaners, the cold dismissiveness from staff who rolled their chairs away when he passed. He didn't talk much, but his mind recorded everything. This wasn't just a job, it was a mirror, and soon that mirror would start to reveal the truth. Kane showed up early every morning, pushing his mop through hallways that didn't notice him. The staff were always in a rush, some too busy to greet, some too proud to look twice. But one day, something shifted. While he was sweeping near the IT department, a voice called softly, "Good morning." Kane looked up. A young woman with kind eyes and a simple cornrow hairstyle stood a few feet away. Her name tag read, Amaka Ume. "You're new, right?" she asked with a warm smile. Kane nodded. "Yes, Ma." She chuckled. "No need for Ma. I'm Amaka." She handed him a bottle of cold water. "It looks like you've had a rough shift." Ken stared at the bottle, unsure whether to take it. No one had offered him anything since he started. "Thank you," he said softly. From that day on, Amaka made it a habit to smile at him. Sometimes she gave him snacks. Other times, she just asked how he was. To her, he wasn't invisible. He was human. Amaka didn't care about his uniform or his silence. She talked to him like he mattered, and for the first time since Ken started working, he felt seen. But while Amaka's kindness stood out like sunlight, the darkness around her was impossible to ignore. He saw Kunle getting too close to a frightened intern. He saw Madame Ifeoma scream at elderly staff like they were children. He saw HR manager Tosin ignore harassment complaints like they were gossip. Ken said nothing, but he saw everything. And Amaka, she was the one reason he kept coming back. Later that week, Emeka asked Bala, his longtime driver and only confidant, to find out more about Amaka. Bala returned the next day with a small report. She's 28, he said, lost both parents in her final year at Unilag, lives in a one-room apartment with her younger brother. She works extra jobs at night to pay his school fees. Never late, never complained, clean record. Emeka stared at the paper, heart heavier than expected. She had nothing and yet gave so much. That evening, Amaka made a silent decision. He sent a discreet payment to her brother's school, covering tuition for a full year. A few days later, he saw her struggling with an old phone with a cracked screen. That night, he ordered a new one and left it anonymously on her desk with a small note, "Keep shining," from a friend. The next morning, Amaka found the gift. Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know who did this," she whispered to a colleague, "but I pray for them every night, my silent angel." Kenny watched her from a distance, not because he expected thanks, but because he needed her to keep believing. In a world full of noise, she was the quiet proof that kindness still lived. But even as he gave in secret, the mistreatment around him intensified. A broken mug was blamed on him. Someone snapped their fingers and shouted, "Cleaner, over here!" He said nothing. He kept working. And each insult became one more brick in the wall of truth he was building. The days passed slowly. Ken continued working in silence, watching, listening, learning. Amaka's kindness remained constant. She never looked at him with pity, only respect. One afternoon, as he mopped the floor near the break room, he overheard Kunla laughing loudly. He was leaning too close to a new female intern, whispering something that made her visibly uncomfortable. "You're lucky you're fine," he said. "I can make you permanent here. Just be friendly." Ken froze. Something inside him clenched. He watched as the girl walked away quickly, eyes down, shaken. Later that day, he saw Amaka talking to the same intern, trying to comfort her. As they stood by the elevator, Kunla passed by again. "Ah, the office activist," he sneered at Amaka. "One more word from you and you'll be looking for work outside." Amaka didn't respond. She just turned away. But Ken saw the fire in her eyes. That night, back in his apartment wing of the mansion, Emeka opened his phone and played back the recording he had secretly taken. Kunla's voice, full of entitlement and filth, echoed back through the speakers. This wasn't just office gossip, it was harassment, and it was real. He saved the file in a hidden folder and titled it, "For Judgment Day." The masks were starting to crack, and Amaka, though still dressed in a janitor's uniform, was quietly preparing for war. A few days later, Amaka entered the elevator holding files for a meeting. As the doors began to close, Kunla stepped in. She immediately tensed. "Still avoiding me?" he said with a smirk. She said nothing. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You like playing hard to get, Abby?" Then, without warning, he reached out to touch her waist. But this time, Amaka didn't flinch. She slapped him, hard. The sound echoed in the elevator. Kunla's face twisted in rage. Amaka stormed out at the next floor and headed straight to HR. She reported everything to Tosin, the HR manager. But instead of support, she received silence. Then sarcasm. "Maybe you misread the situation," Tosin said casually. "This is how men joke." Amaka stared at her, heart pounding. "So you're saying it's my fault?" Tosin shrugged. "Just watch your attitude. You're not irreplaceable." Amaka walked out of the office shaking. A few minutes later, Kane found her sitting quietly by the stairs, eyes red. "You okay?" he asked gently. She looked at him, tears threatening to fall. "They're trying to make me feel like I'm mad, like I imagined everything. But I know what happened." Kenny didn't speak. He just sat beside her. "I won't let him break me," she said finally. even if no one believes me. Kenny looked at her with quiet admiration. This woman, he thought, has more courage than most CEOs. That night, Kane returned to his small cleaner's room and opened his laptop. He drafted an anonymous email addressed to HR, the board of directors, and the legal department. Attached were audio recordings of Kunle harassing the intern, as well as details of his behavior toward Amaka. The sender was simply signed, Internal Ethics Review, Anonymous Report. He pressed send, then he sat back and exhaled. The storm had begun. The very next morning, whispers filled the building. Kunle was summoned to a private board meeting. No one knew the details, but by noon his office was cleared out. Rumors swirled, suspension, investigation, even police involvement. Kunle's desk was empty. For the first time, people began to murmur Amaka's name, not with mockery, but with respect, though many still whispered behind her back. Later that day, another email went out. Amaka Ume was officially promoted to project coordinator in the IT department. Her salary increased, and she was granted access to a modest company apartment in Lekki Phase 1. Some clapped, many gossiped. In the break room, Tosin smirked. She must be sleeping with someone upstairs, she whispered to another manager. Kane heard it. His blood boiled. But he said nothing. Not yet, because the day of reckoning was coming. That evening, Emeka walked up to the rooftop for fresh air. He found Amaka there, sitting quietly by the water tank, shoulders trembling. She was crying. He didn't speak, just sat beside her. "They think I did something wrong," she whispered. "That I seduced someone for this promotion, that I cheated my way up." She laughed bitterly. "All because something good finally happened to me." He looked at her, voice low. "You don't owe anyone an explanation. You earned everything." She turned to him slowly. "Why do you care so much?" He hesitated. "Because you're the only one who saw me, the only one who treated me like I mattered." Her eyes softened. "Maybe because I know what it feels like to be invisible," she said. "And I also know everyone is important, no matter what name they carry." They sat in silence. Emeka's heart beat heavily. He wanted to tell her everything, that he wasn't Ken, that he was Emeka Okafor, the man who had changed her life in secret. But the words caught in his throat. Instead, he said quietly, "You're stronger than you think, Amaka, and this company has no idea who they're messing with." She smiled faintly, wiped her eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." The next morning, Ken was summoned by Tosin. "Come to my office now," she said sharply. When he arrived, she leaned back in her chair and crossed her legs. "You know, you're too good-looking to be cleaning floors," she said. "You and I could work something out." Keen stiffened. "I'm fine where I am, Ma." Her expression changed instantly. "So it's true. You and that girl, Amaka." Then came the insult. "She's not what you think," Tosin said, "always pretending to be holy. But we all know how she got that promotion. Your little girlfriend is not so clean." Kane stepped forward. "Don't speak about her like that," he said coldly. Tosin smirked. "What will you do, cleaner boy?" Kane turned and walked out. But inside, his anger had reached its limit. This ends now. The next day, Chief Okafor arrived at the building unexpectedly. The boardroom filled. Everyone whispered, "The chairman is here." Then came the shock. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chief Okafor said, "meet the man who has been among you for weeks, my son, Emeka Okafor." The doors opened. In walked Kane, now in a fitted navy blue suit. Heads turned, mouths fell open. Tosin went pale. Madame Ifeoma sat down slowly. And Amaka, she covered her mouth in disbelief. The cleaner was the heir all along. Emeka stood before the crowd, calm and collected. "For weeks I walked these halls as a cleaner. Many of you walked past me. Some insulted me. A few mocked me. But I saw you. I saw how you treated those you thought had no value." Then he played the audio recordings, Kunle's voice, Tosin's comments, Madame Ifeoma's cruelty. The room was silent. No excuses now. "Mr. Kunle is fired. Madame Tosin, you are dismissed. Madame Ifeoma demoted to janitor with compulsory retraining." Gasps filled the air. Emeka turned to Amaka, who still stood in shock. And to Amaka Ume for your courage, integrity, and excellence, welcome to the executive leadership team. Amaka's hands trembled. She stepped forward slowly as the room erupted into applause. Outside, the sun was shining brighter than usual. A new era had begun at Prime Trust. No more shadows, no more masks, just truth, dignity, and justice. And as Emeka and Amaka stood beside each other, the billionaire's son and the girl who saw him, they knew this was only the beginning. Together, they would build a future no one could tear down. The end. What's your take on the hidden son? Did Emeka make the right choice going undercover? And what do you think about Amaka's strength and kindness in a world that constantly tried to silence her? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Nigerian-inspired storytelling. More twists, drama, and redemption tales are coming your way.